where it was no longer fentanyl, it was no longer heroin, it was the xylazine.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if you've heard anything about the withdrawal from xylazine. That is ridiculous. So, with xylazine and the medetomidine that's out right now, it's not like a not out kind of thing. Because that's what we would like to do. We'd like to, get our shit, and then it kind of gave us like a pep. Like, so while we're gonna figure out how to get more money. Well, with xylazine, it is you're out for hours. It's a trank, so you do it, and you just fall asleep.
Is that the one Narcan doesn't
Right?
reverse?
Yeah, it doesn't reverse. It's Narcan resistant. We didn't know it was xylazine at the time. It was just like, well, why are we just constantly falling asleep? We just thought it was good dope.
Yeah. Hey, Lou, I've got a story I want to share on the podcast. How do I do that?
Well, you can email us at getagrippodcast614@gmail.com or fill out the form fill in our link tree.
What about if I just want to show our boys some love and support the podcast?
You can follow us at official Get a Grip Podcast on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook to follow our short clips, or YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts for our long forms. We're also on iHeartRadio. We're everywhere.
What about a behind-the-scenes look at Get a Grip Podcast?
Snapchat's the place for that.
I heard all the kids are doing it.
Smash that like button and subscribe. Boop. All right, welcome back to another episode of Get a Grip Podcast. Today we have Briana Noda from Canton, Ohio. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Noda.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having
Much
me.
appreciated.
Yeah.
As I said, it's always great we can get someone in this seat because it can be kind of difficult to do sometimes.
Yeah.
Preach.
That being said, hit us up. We're looking for guests. We're always looking for guests. We are going to dive right in and start at childhood. So how that affected you, how that turned you into the woman you are today, what that looks like.
Yeah. So I don't even know where. So I'm 30 years old now. So I was born in 96. Okay. My mom had me when she was 25. She was with my dad when she had me, but he's no longer a part of my life. He was addiction runs in my family, so he was a really big addict, and there were some things that happened.
That's your biological father?
Yeah, my biological dad. Okay. Yeah. So I'll refer to him as my dad, but anything else in the story, my stepfather is my dad. My stepfather came into my life when I was 1.5. So yeah. But my biological dad, he super big on pills as well. He lives in West Virginia. That's where I was born. So I don't know really, my mom never really got into the story too much of like what actually happened. He was physically abusive. I do know that. And then just drugs in and out of the house, obviously. So she packed up whenever I was a year old and, moved. She's originally from Akron. So she moved back to Akron with, her parents. Okay. And then, a couple months go by and she met my stepdad, which like I said, he's been in, my life since I was 1.5. So,
you ever meet your real dad?
Oh, yeah. I was going to get to that. So there was a custody agreement, too, where I went down to West Virginia to visit, like on school breaks. And then for the summer, I'd spend a week or two down there. I think that's kind of where everything stemmed. That's where I kind of, got there's something, drugs are real. Yeah. He didn't really do anything in front of me, but partaking wise, but he would always, drive around and I'd be in the car whenever he was doing deals and whatnot. And actually, the last time I did go down there, I found a baggie underneath my sink. And I didn't know what it was, but it was white powder, so it's 2 and 2 together. Yep. So I called my mom and she was like, all right, you're done. And then also that time too, I ended up getting in a car wreck with my aunt. Whenever I was down in West Virginia, I'd spend like a couple days with my dad, but the rest of the time he'd pawn me off on my aunt, my cousin.
Right. Yep.
So I was in a car accident with her. We actually flipped the car upside down, and everybody was trying to get a hold of my dad. Was nowhere to be found. It ended up that he was driving by, seen the accident, and he was like, "Oh shit!" And then they took me to the ER. I was in the back seat, but West Virginia doctors aren't very good. So they wanted to do some kind of surgery on me. They said I had internal bleeding and I had a fractured arm, which my mom came and got me immediately and brought me back up here. Got a second opinion, and none of that was true.
None of that was true.
None of it was true. I
So
didn't have any internal.
They were just about to cut on you for no reason.
For no reason, just kind of like a guinea pig thing.
How old were you when you had the car accident?
That, I think I was probably like 8.
Do you remember it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember it. I was in the backseat, like I said, and I remember being on the side because we flipped, and then on the side of the mountain, we were like in a ditch up against the mountain. But I remember being in the backseat, and my cousin was driving, my aunt was up here, and I just remember her unbuckling her seatbelt and just falling on top of my cousin. Down. Yeah. But so that's a little trauma, but yeah, that's kind of where things stemmed. I knew my dad was doing something, and my mom had told me a little bit. Obviously, there's not much you can really say at 8 years old. Yeah. You kind of have to, protect the innocence a little bit. Yep. But yeah, she was like, no more.
So Dad drove by the accident scene?
Yeah, he had,
and didn't get out.
No, he did.
Oh, okay,
he did.
Say,
yeah,
damn,
he
Dad.
was like, oh yeah, that's them.
my people.
Yeah, but yeah, no way could get a hold of him on the phone or anything. He was out, doing his own thing. But yeah, it's times down there were a bit crazy. But yeah, after I came back up here after the accident and everything, and I was no longer, I don't want to say allowed, I chose not to go back down as well, because it just wasn't, I got to spend 2 days with my dad, and the rest of the time,
yeah,
it was,
with your aunt.
Yeah. But he continued to call, continued to write letters and whatnot, and I just, kind of had to tell him, like, even at 8 years old, like, I don't really, we're not, I don't want to say compatible, but you don't spend time with me, you don't show me any kind of effort, and then, well, the phone works both ways. It's like, but I'm 8 years old.
Yeah, it's not my job.
No.
Here.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, he would continue to call, and there was actually one time, I had some friends over.
This is the most gaslight thing
I know.
possible you could say
right?
to a fucking 8-year-old.
To an 8-year-old. But yeah, I had some friends over one time, and I hadn't been answering his calls for a couple weeks, and he actually called a welfare check on us, and told the cops that I hadn't been answering his calls, that my mom was crazy, da 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 da. So the cops had to show up to the house, and me, as an 8, 9-year-old, I had to explain to the cops, like, no, my dad's a drug addict. I don't want any part of that, So yeah,
it's a lot for an 8-year-old.
Right.
To take
yeah.
on, even to understand that at that
right,
age
yeah.
is wild.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but then, so that addiction runs there on that side of my family. Also with my mom, she hid it a lot better. But there would be distinct times. I'll say my mom's dad, so my grandpa, he sold a lot of cocaine. So he went to prison later on in life. He actually died in prison. But he sold a lot. So my mom would partake in that, get it from him. And then I remember again being around 8, 9, 10 years old and distinctly hear the on the they're in the kitchen.
Table.
Yeah. They're in the kitchen, and we're not allowed to go in the kitchen. And that was the first time that, I smelled people smoking pot and all that. We had some neighbors that weren't so good, and my stepdad, my dad, and my mom kind of hooked up with them, and there was a little time there where they were kind of off the rocker a little bit. But then, my dad was like, okay, no more. And it went, my mom stood with that for a while. I want to say probably till I got into high school. And my mom was a at-home nurse. She went into people's houses and, took care of them. There was an older gentleman, which I probably shouldn't be saying that, but there was an older gentleman that had no family, like, whatsoever. He kind of took my mom under his wing. She had just lost her dad too, so they clicked really well. And his son, actually, he did have family, but his son ended up robbing him for like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So he was about to lose his house. We were living in Stowe at the time, but we had just moved down to the Maslin area, Canton. So she moved him in with us. But being that he was elderly, had dementia, he was on hospice as well. There was always Xanax, morphine, opiates, nonstop in the house. So I found out then that, my mom was dipping into the morphine and the Prcocet then. And I actually...
Is your stepdad around still, or they split
No,
up?
yeah, they've been together. They're still together to
And
this
he's
day.
cool with just some old guy showing up?
Well, yeah, it was a financial benefit too, kind of.
I bet it was.
So he was in the military, so he got VA disability and all that. So it kind of helped both ways, should I say? But my dad didn't know that she was partaking in any of that. He worked. She was a stay-at-home mom, so all of his kids were at school. And she was just home by herself taking care of him. And she had help that came in throughout the day as well whenever he did move in with us. But yeah, I found that out actually a little bit later. And then, I dabbled throughout high school. Actually, I didn't smoke weed until like my senior year. So I was really against everything. I was like, not me. Nope. I wanted to be a nurse. So it's like, I'm going to go to nursing school, all that. But then my senior year, I kind of let loose and I started smoking weed a little bit. I was going to go into the military, actually. I had went to take my ASVAB. I was going to go into the Navy. And then
so you were really going to go.
Yeah.
Why the Navy?
My best friend was going in the Navy, so that was like going to be our deal.
Okay.
We were going together. We were going to sign together, and they were going to keep us together. And
plus,
then,
you're probably not going to see combat.
I was going to be a nurse, and so it was like I'm in the medical part of it. And I tested really high and everything. They told me I could have pretty much any job that I wanted. But the day before I was supposed to leave for MEPS up in Cleveland was actually the day that I graduated high school, which was the day I found out I was pregnant.
Oh,
yeah. So
surprise.
I had a boyfriend in high school that we were steady. We were together on and off, I want to say, for like 3 or 4 years. I ended up actually moving in with him after high school. My parents and we've always had like a rocky relationship. They're really strict, and even though I wasn't doing drugs,
which is ironic because they're dabbling themselves, right?
Yeah. But I mean, they are such good parents. I mean, I can't say anything, other than they just wanted the best for me. And I just didn't want to follow rules. That's what it was. I didn't want to come home at a certain time. I wanted to be with my friends. My dad was kind of harsh on the punishments, a little odd sometimes. Very militant, should I say. He just wanted to strip you down to basically nothing, and you had to focus on yourself, which is good in some sense, but for a teenage girl, it kind of, I don't want to say dad. I already had daddy issues, but it gave me kind of some daddy issues. I didn't feel, loved sometimes or listened to, so I try to do like the opposite with my kids, but very militant in the sense that like I wasn't allowed to straighten my hair. I had a punishment wardrobe, so I had to wear like long skirts to school, like button up polos.
A punishment wardrobe.
Yeah. I wasn't allowed to shave my legs or anything like that.
Golly.
It was odd, but he meant the best, but
Yeah.
But so he didn't know what was going on with my mom and everything. And then one day I went out with some friends and I came home and I told my mom, I was like, hey, I tried coke for the first time. She was like, oh, really? And then I kind of took off from there. It ended up that my mom and we did a lot of coke together.
Doing coke?
Yeah.
What's it like the first time doing it? Is it weird?
It was... But I don't know. It wasn't.
It's not weird.
It's not.
I think it's weird the
it's
first
like,
time. Like I can't.
I was really open with my mom though. But she knew everything. The only thing she didn't know was I did find out I was pregnant. I should probably jump back to that. I did end up having an abortion for that pregnancy. So I was with my high school boyfriend. His mom wanted nothing to do with it. She paid for the abortion, and after that she was like, no,
okay.
you guys are done. So it was rough. I had to do that alone, and that's not something I would ever choose now.
Is that a painful procedure? Are you awake during it?
So I chose to do the pills. So they give you sets of pills that you have to take like 3 different days in a row, and it basically just
so it's like an at-home abortion.
Makes you expel everything. Yeah.
How quickly?
About a week. The first 2 days are extremely painful, and that was actually the first time I was prescribed opiates. So yeah, I got a little taste there.
And do you poop it out or do you pee it out?
It's like a period.
Okay, so it just comes out. Okay.
Yeah. So you get really bad cramps, and you just expel it out.
And then it just goes. Okay.
And then you'll still you physically just see the clots pass. I don't want to get too graphic, but it's rough. Yeah.
Wow.
And in Ohio, the way they do it is you have to have like a counseling session 24 hours before your actual procedure. But other than that, you have to find counseling, and they don't offer anything else on your own. That was a really, depressive time for me. That's not something that I ever wanted to do. And even if I could go back now, I mean, I love my life the way it is now and everything. My kids, my boyfriend now, but I don't think I would do it again. They just, the mentality that it put me in, I was just like, fuck it. I didn't want anything. That was kind of what started everything going downhill. But yeah, so my mom and I doing coke together after that, we just did it on and off for a long time. Even in 2017, I had my son. So even after I had my son, we were doing it together.
Just cocaine?
Yeah, we started with just cocaine. So there was some time that I was, partying on and off, single after my boyfriend and I, high school boyfriend and I had broke up. I was single for about a year, and then I met my current boyfriend. We've been together for 11 years now, and we've went through the whole addiction thing together, which that's a whole
surviving that's almost impossible.
Oh, it is. They say like no one ever really.
Couples don't really.
Yeah, we're so codependent even now. Still,
I get it. I get it, man.
Yeah. But yeah, so I met him, and I don't want to say he was, he was a bad boy. I was attracted to that type at that time. But he's a good man now. He's such a good dad. But the first time my mom actually met him, he had broken on his 21st birthday. He got really drunk and punched a wall, but he had shattered his hand. So he was prescribed Perc 75s at the time. So the first time he met my mom, he was selling her his perks. So yeah, from there, it was, us three. We would always do coke together. My mom was the only one kind of dabbling in the opiates at the time. I didn't like the way that they made me feel at that time, but I loved coke. I loved being up and being able to, stay up and clean and do whatever. But yeah, so the opiates were more her, until a couple years later. That's when I started to kind of dabble with that. I had my son, and that's when I was prescribed Perc 75s for the first time, and that's kind of when I was like, oh, I kind of like this. So I had him in 2017. Like I said, he was planned too. So I was 21 at the time when I had him. My boyfriend was 22. Why we decided to plan him at that time, I have no idea. Couldn't tell you. We were just so.
Were you financially well off?
No,
for you?
No.
Just time. Felt like it was time.
Yeah. I mean, it was more of an irresponsible thing to do. It was every one of our friends were having kids at the time. We knew,
trying to keep up, like keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Kids always sound like a great idea.
And everybody was like, "Oh, you two aren't gonna last." And I was like, "Oh, watch this."
Well, you think that'll fix it. Oh, if we have a kid, if we buy a house, if we buy the new car, that's gonna fix our relationship.
So we were actually living with his parents at the time, still too.
That's super irresponsible.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, oh, I love you, like let's have a baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, we stupid, but we did it.
Worked out.
We're still together. We've been off and on, throughout the whole addiction thing.
Of course.
But yeah, we're still together. Like I said, 11 years. It'll be 12 in December. But yeah, so we did end up moving out of his parents' house. And that was kind of like our first taste. I don't want to say of freedom, because we were doing whatever, coke, whatever we wanted then. When we were together, though, we were doing coke every day at first. Like,
how do you afford it? What are you doing? Like,
just pawn shop.
Okay.
We were donating plasma at one point.
Anybody have a job?
Yeah, we both did. We had an apartment too at that.
Okay.
But so we both were working. I was working at a place in the mall. I managed actually a maternity store in the mall. And he was working for concrete companies, so we made decent money at the time. Our rent was only like $500 for our apartment.
Oh,
that was 10 years ago or so. So yeah, it was, I want to say, more affordable than it is now, of course. But yeah, the pawn shop was our friend, of course. We hadn't done anything crazy for money. We didn't really have to do that until later on, like really later on down the line. But it was just constantly going to the pawn shop, flipping things, plasma donations. Our rent was always late too, but we got it done. And then came the opiates. So he had met somebody at work that was doing them as well. That's when the perks were real. So he knew somebody knew somebody that was dying of cancer, and he would sell his perk 30s every month. So we would dabble into that, dabble into like the Opanas, and then the Dilaudid.
It's all the good shit.
Yeah,
it's all the best
when it was
shit.
all real, you know.
Yeah, the good old days.
Yeah, and then I don't know what it was with me though. We did it more consistently, obviously. First it was like spaced out, and then it's like okay every day. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm not doing this. Like we have, at the time, I think my son was like 2. I was like, I'm not doing this. We have a baby. This is just getting ridiculous. Like we're not.
It's hard to have a drug habit with a child.
Yeah.
They get in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was more like, oh, I'm not a drug addict. Which I feel shitty for now, but I blamed it on him. So I was like, you are the one that has the issue. You know, I can stop anytime I want. And whenever that was happening, it was I didn't get sick. We were doing it every day, and I want to say we did it every day for like 3 months. But for the first, start-stop stints, I didn't get sick. But he did. And so he went to a 30-day program in Miami, which was a joke in itself.
Miami, Florida?
Yes, Miami, Florida.
Damn.
So that was the first time he went to rehab.
That had to have been expensive as fuck.
His insurance covered it. He was still under 25, so he was on his parents' insurance.
Gotcha.
The only thing that he had to cover for was his ticket to and from. So yeah, but it was a joke down there. They had a curfew, but he came and go in the house. He pleased. He got to have his phone.
And that's his 30-day treatment.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a sober house, essentially.
Yeah. And then, of course, there was people in there,
Yep.
And that was, they call it the Florida Shuffle, actually. So they'll bill your insurance and then send you to another rehab. And then bill your insurance, send you to another rehab.
Yep.
And then once they'll send you out with cash in your hand to let you go get high whenever you're done with the 30 days. So that way, when you jump to the next one, your screens are dirty, so you can get back in. And they tried to kind of trap him in that, but I was like, no, it's fine. You're coming home. So it was actually when he came home, it did something. The program itself was a joke, but him just being away from his family and like, oh, I don't want to do this. He was really good whenever he came home. Things were great between us. He was a more present dad to our son. But that lasted probably 6 months or so.
Where you both were off everything.
Yeah,
for
we
6
both
months.
were off everything at the time. And then he was like, well, we had a problem with opiates, but we never had a problem with coke. Like, we can do coke.
Famous last words.
Yeah, so it started with coke again. And then, of course, it just snowballs from there. And then we were really struggling financially then because he was out of work for the 30 days and I was making pennies at the mall. He was the breadwinner, still is the breadwinner. So he it kind of set me back a little bit. So I was just getting so frustrated after he came back and we had spent a couple months doing coke again. We were fighting off and on. Things just weren't really good. So I was like, we need a break. Let the apartment go. I was able to move back into my mom's and dad's with my son, and he moved back in with his parents. We just needed some time apart, which it wasn't even time apart. We still spent every day together. It was just more or less, but I want to say this too, whenever I moved back in with my parents, my dad, with this kind of controlling militant behavior, he takes complete control over my finances. So
what's that look like? Like you got to give him your money?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
fuck you, man.
So,
like, God bless him, but yeah.
I mean,
if you're living in
I
his
love
house.
my dad too,
yeah.
but even in high school, I worked 2 jobs and had to give him money. So it just, it was off and on. I don't.
You
think,
get it back at some point? Oh yeah. See.
He did buy me a car one time.
You don't get it back?
No. No, it's a contribution to the household.
Oh,
Even to this day, he does it with my brother. I have a brother who's a couple years younger than me. He does it with my brother now too. My brother
keeps his all. I get that.
Not all of it. Not all of it.
Okay, but like I get if you're putting it away for them, like when they're ready for it.
And at the time he knew that I had a problem with substances. And he knew my boyfriend Zach had a problem with substances. So he was controlling the finances to, to make sure we weren't
That
spending on
makes
anything.
more sense than.
But you'd think you'd get it back.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so that was that. So I wasn't able to buy anything then. So we took some time apart. But then, I love my parents to death. Like I said, they just want what's best. But once I was that age, we just butt heads. Like I had my taste of freedom living on my own. I didn't want to, again, follow their rules. I had a curfew. And it's like, I have a child,
Yeah.
So
You're in your 20s, right?
Yeah. I was probably like 23 or so at that time, 24. So I had spent probably like 2-3 months there, and me and my dad were just arguing nonstop. So I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm out. So then Zach and I, we saved up for like 2 weeks, and we ended up getting another apartment together after like 3 months of our separation. So we moved into the other apartment, and again, kind of right off the bat, picked up where we left off. Not so much with Coke at that time. That's when the 30s turned to the fentanyl 30s.
Fentanyl.
Yeah. So we moved to, and I was in Massillon at that time with my parents, the Jackson area. We moved out to Canton. So Jackson Township is kind of like ritzy. Nobody does drugs there. Canton, obviously, it's the opposite. So you can find anything on the corner in Canton. So when we moved to Canton, I met some people. And that's when we got back on the fentanyl 30s, so the opiates again. So we were doing those off and on, and then it snowballed again to every day.
Do you realize they're fentanyl 30s?
No, at that time we didn't. That's what I was going to say too.
They looked that real.
Yeah. At that time the M-Box 30s, we had got them previously that were real. So we just thought that's what it was. And then there was one day we had just picked up my son from daycare. I was on my way home from work. We had just picked up 30s. Did him in the car right before we picked him up. I'm driving. It's like a 5-minute drive from his daycare back to our apartment. I look over at him and I'm like, I don't feel right. Something's not right. And I was like, you need to drive home. Which he doesn't have a license. So he had gotten some DUIs previously, but I'm like, you need to drive home. Something's not right. So I halfway home, pulled into a pizza shop, and we switched spots. Immediately, whenever I sat down in the passenger seat and he got back on the road, I was out.
You fell out.
I fell out. And it was to the point, by the time he got home, but I was completely blue. So we had kept Narcan in the house just in case.
Yeah.
But at that point, it wasn't the nasal Narcan. That wasn't so readily.
It the shot?
It was the shot, which I did go to nursing. I did go to nursing school for a little bit. So I knew, how to start an IV, how to, inject. That's an IM
You
injection.
did, but you're fucking out.
But I had taught him,
Okay.
and I was like, if something happens, this is what you need to do. Well, he did it. He did it correctly, but it wasn't working. I was just completely
out of it.
That takes a little bit longer than the nasal does to take into effect. So my son's in the back seat, mind you. He's 4 years old at this time. It's like, what's going on? But Zach is just screaming. There's a man that hears him screaming, comes over. I'm just dead weight. Pulls me out of the car, puts me on the ground. He's doing CPR while Zach is calling 911. 911 shows up. I got no memory whatsoever. I did wake up in the back of the ambulance, thank God. It took 8 nasal Narcans
Jesus.
to bring me back.
How many, did you just do one pill?
Yeah.
Damn.
You did a whole 30.
But I mean, yeah.
That's insane.
So it was a hot one. We were doing
Straight
whole ones.
fentanyl,
Yeah. We were doing whole ones, every day, multiple times a day.
Right.
But I just got a hot pill. So yeah, I woke up in the back of an ambulance, strapped to the gurney, and I wasn't. They say everybody wakes up combative. I wasn't combative. I just lost it. I knew what happened as soon as I woke up.
You made me feel like shit.
Yeah. So they were like, I was like, no, I'm fine. Like, I don't want to go. They're like, no, you need to go to the hospital because the Narcan can wear off before the opiate does or the fentanyl does. So you can go into another overdose.
You can OD again.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's that strong. So I went to the hospital and they ended up giving me another shot of Narcan in the hospital.
That's when you really start to feel great.
Yeah, and I go home. He drove to the ER.
Oh, that's the worst shit.
Which actually I was surprised, like the cops didn't show up at all that time, but there's so many ODs in Canton. I'm surprised the ambulance even showed up, to be honest. It's consistent, all the time. And I was surprised too because the cops didn't show up. They didn't take my son or anything that night. So obviously there was a CPS case open though, being that he was there. They asked what happened in the hospital. I reiterated what happened. They're mandated reporters, so they have to call it in. And so they did. I got a call from CPS the next day. And I feel like I completely bullshitted her. I was like, oh, my back's hurting, I got a pill from somebody at work and I didn't know they told me it was a Prcocet, but it was fentanyl and I had no like prior
you didn't know.
Yeah, so
right.
and she believed me.
Deny.
Yeah, so I went to take a drug screen and obviously that was what was in my system. And then at that time too, Zach had been going to an outpatient program, and he was getting Suboxone, but he wasn't taking those. We were selling those. We just got hip to that hustle. So we had to provide his drug screens, but she was like, okay, it's fine. He's in, outpatient. He's consistently working. They didn't really mind that. Since I had no previous addiction history, they just came out a couple times randomly and drug tested us within like a month. And then like a month after that, we got a letter in the mail saying that the case was closed.
Wow.
So it was.
And you were able to pee clean every time they came out?
They don't do urine. They do mouth swabs.
Okay.
Yeah. So every time I don't want to say you can beat a mouth test, but if you're not using within like 24 hours, you're fine.
Really?
So so sometimes we continued to use during that time, but they would come out, and then I wouldn't answer the door, and so I'm like, okay, they're gonna come back tomorrow, so I can't,
Okay.
So I wouldn't answer the door a couple of days in a row, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm busy, can you come out this day? So it's random, but it's
you can manipulate it.
You can manipulate it. So yeah, we continued to do that. It was an open and shut case. And then it got to the point where the 30s just weren't cutting it. At that point, I think it was like $50 a pill.
Golly.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So that's an expensive habit for,
for
just two of us. So we found somebody. Actually, I had listed a pair of shoes on Facebook, a pair of Jordans, and they were my size, so a girl had hit me up, and we had went to her house to sell them to her, and she ended up having heroin. So it just immediately progressed from the pills.
How the fuck does that come up?
It was just on the table.
Facebook?
Yeah, it was Marketplace, and she was like, oh, I want the shoes, and I was like, okay, I'll drop them off to you. And it was just out on the table,
And like, did somebody like, are you like, what's that? Or is she like, oh, don't mind the heroin on the table here?
No, I think her and Zach started having a conversation about like where you could get perks or whatever, because you could. I mean, if you looked at her, you could tell. You know. And she was like, oh, well, it's actually I have this right here. So she ended up giving a little bit for us to try, and that again snowballed from there. So that's where we jumped to the powder.
You guys snorting it?
Yeah. We did end up moving to injection, but it really didn't do it for me. I like to snort it more than.
That's the first time I've ever heard that in my life.
Was it like the taste and the drain and all that good stuff? Yeah.
And like the vinegary, with the heroin. But honestly, whenever. I want to say probably like 10 times total, the whole addiction. I've maybe used a needle.
Okay.
It didn't do anything for me. They say, it hits you faster. I didn't even get off sick sometimes whenever it just did nothing. And it's not like I don't know what I'm doing. I know how to start IVs. I went to nursing school. So I don't know if it was just a mental thing for me or if
It's
the dope was that bad then.
Yeah.
But it did nothing for me. And they say too that you get more hooked to the needle sometimes than you do
Yeah.
the drugs. But I got more hooked to putting things in my nose, whereas as opposed to the opposite. So yeah, we ended up then consistently going through her. When we met her, she actually had her jaw wired shut. And she was like, oh yeah, I got curb stomped, I got jumped, and da-da-da. Well, come to find out later, we know why. There was a point where we were no money, nothing left to pawn. We didn't know what to do. So she called us and she was like, hey, can you guys give me a ride here, da-da-da. And then she was like, actually, can I just borrow your car? And I didn't agree to this. I didn't know. Zach, the cars were in my name because he doesn't have a license, but he let her borrow the car.
You get dope up front?
Yes.
Okay.
He got a gram. She's supposed to borrow it for an hour. She never came back.
Oh.
So we got her car stolen for a gram of dope.
Wow.
And that was kind of the end of that little stint.
Did they ever find her? Find the car?
No.
No?
I ended up reporting it like 24 hours later because you had to wait 24 hours since I gave her permission. So they reported it for unauthorized use of a vehicle. And like 6 months later, I got a summons in the mail that I needed to go in front of the grand jury. That was because they had found somebody with my license plate that was on the car.
Wow.
So they wanted me to confirm whether or not I knew the person. I gave him the license plate, which it was a man. I don't know. I never met that person in my life,
Right.
So, come to find out, the reason why she got her jaw wired shut, this was a consistent thing she was doing. So she was borrowing cars, and then she'd borrow, or she would get, I had a Mercury Sable. So a Ford Taurus is a Mercury Sable, just with different branding.
Yep.
So she would switch out parts, emblems, license plates, everything except the VIN. So it looked like a Ford Taurus, same color, same everything. So that's what she did to him. So that was just kind of like another innocent dude where she had just swapped my license plate with his because he had a Ford Taurus. So yeah, he kind of got.
It's kind of smart.
Yeah.
Well, you know where she lives. That's the.
No, so she was with somebody at that time. We did end up showing up there, and they weren't together anymore. They hadn't seen her. So yeah, she still to this day is MIA. She lives in Canton somewhere. Where? Couldn't tell you.
Man.
Haven't seen my car. Haven't seen her anything. Anytime we run into anybody, have you seen anything? Have you heard anybody? No, nobody's heard from her. Which it's like whatever at this point. It's been
Yeah, how many years?
Years, yeah. So that was the end of that little stint. Well, I don't want to say the end. So we got the car stolen. We came clean to Zach's parents. His parents are they're angels. They kind of went through the same thing whenever they were younger. So they know, they've been there, done that. They know you're going to make stupid mistakes, but they kind of enabled us a lot up until the point where they didn't. So we got the car stolen, and then his parents bought, that was at the beginning of the week. That like Thursday or Friday, we went and bought like a $1,200 Toyota Camry off of somebody. His parents bought it for us. Well, I want to say that was probably on a Thursday. I went and I got everything switched over to my name. And then on that Friday, my parents needed me to go somewhere with them to help move furniture. And it was Zach's task then to pick our son up from daycare. So he wasn't, high, anything like that. He was just driving down the road. Someone ran a red light and T-boned him. So within 48 hours of having that car.
You got your car, lost your car.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So then it's like, okay, we live out in Canton, which is like 30 minutes away from both of our parents. So we can't get him to and from work. We can't get our son to daycare. So we were just like, whatever. Then we moved then again and I moved in with my parents. He moved in with his parents. So then that lasted literally like 2 weeks. And then I was like, I can't do it with my dad anymore. We're just constantly, at each other's necks, arguing over orange juice, like simple, like stupid things. We can't live together. So then I moved out of my parents 2 weeks later and moved back in with his parents. So we were living with his parents then, off and on, or not, I don't want to say off and on, but, for probably like a couple months. And then my parents went to Florida for a visit on a vacation. They come home from Florida and, they're like, well, we have family in Florida too. So like, we talked about it. We're packing up and we're moving to Florida. So within 3 months of them telling me that, they packed up and they moved to Florida. I continued to stay with his parents, and my son, we still lived with his parents. So they moved down there, with their family, and that was like a big hit for me. I've always been super close to my mom. I've never, been away from her like that. And my dad as well. So that was really hard for me. But even when we moved back in with his parents, we didn't get sober. We were still, doing, the fentanyl 30s at the time, the heroin, all of it. It got to the point where we weren't dealing with her anymore, obviously, because she stole the car, so we had to find somebody else for the heroin. When we found somebody else, though, I don't know what was in it, but it made me hallucinate to the point where, like, lights on, nobody's home. Like, I would sit there and rock back and forth, and I would, like, make weird noises. Zach has videos of it to this day, and it's, like, it's disgusting to watch. But that's when his parents were like, okay, you guys are on something, lights on, nobody's
I wonder
home.
what they put in it.
I don't know. I have no idea. No idea whatsoever.
Sounds like ketamine or something.
But it, like, I didn't trip or anything. It wasn't like a hallucinogen or anything.
I've had that. I call that the amnesia dope phase, where like I'd take it and then I'd wake up 2 hours later, I'm alive the whole time, but I come to downtown Columbus, no idea how I got there.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know if it was benzos, and sometimes I don't know, but like I wasn't. I don't want to say I was hallucinating, but
like, lights
I wasn't
on, nobody's
seeing
home.
Any, yeah. And it was just weird, but that's when his mom was like, okay, we're not doing this. And even Zach was like scared to the point where they were, you're gonna die, like we can't do this. So it's probably like 6 months or so after my parents moved to Florida. His mom was like, okay, you guys can't live here anymore. And I told my mom, I was like, this is what's going on. I came clean to them, which they knew off and on. I can't hide it worth anything. So I told my mom, and I packed up, and my son and I moved to Florida.
Oh, boy.
And this was the first time that I had experienced withdrawal. Because before starting and stopping, I never really got sick. Like, I guess I was lucky in the sense. I was lucky. I could do it, 3 months straight, stop, be fine. Do it, stop, be fine. But when I moved to Florida, coming off of heroin and the fentanyl 30s, that was hard. I went completely cold turkey. I don't want to say I didn't get back to myself until like a month. I didn't sleep for like a week.
Yep.
The restless legs, the restless arms.
Yep.
It's the worst shit ever.
I don't wish that on anybody. So yeah, my mom, thank God, love her to death. She took care of my son. But he did have to witness that. So I wasn't sleeping. It was just a shell of a person. The anxiety that you get, when you withdraw, it
feels
was bad.
so gross.
And then again, I didn't want to leave Zach too. So he didn't come with us. That was another part of it, because I knew what he was going to continue to do up there. He's not going to stop. He didn't get kicked out of I don't want to say we got kicked out of his parents' house, but we were asked to leave, and because I left, his mom was like, okay, you need to get some help. And he went back into an outpatient program then. But yeah, the withdrawal, that was hard. So I'm down in Florida.
Did you drive? You guys drove down?
No, I flew. My son and I flew. Okay. Yeah. So I the night before I left, I called a person at like a scrapyard, and I was like, come get the car. Got $600 from it for the car. Gave him half of it. He bought an 8-ball with a half before him and my son and I even left. So I was okay on the plane ride there. But by the time we got to Florida, it was like midnight, and I hadn't done anything since like 6 a.m. So it started. Yeah. the first night wasn't, it's, day 2, day 3.
Yeah.
And then it continues and continues and continues. So about a month it took me to get back to a baseline, a normal, where I didn't feel like shit every day. And working on living a normal life with my parents. My brother, my sister, and I, my mom, my dad, and my son all lived in a 2-bedroom condo in Florida. So my son and I were sleeping on an air mattress, kind of like in the dining room. So there's no privacy, no, that's what I needed at the time. I didn't, because I'll find a way to be sneaky,
Yeah.
So I got, some trust back with them. I ended up getting a job down in Florida. My dad gave me an allowance of my money, $50 every 2 weeks.
$50 every 2 weeks,
which he paid for gas in the car. He paid for food and all that, but that was like my spending money.
$25 a week in Florida.
Yes. Yep. I thought, again, I didn't see any of that. I ended up, I think it was like $23,000 that I had made within that time frame that I was working before I moved out on my own in Florida. I had did the math, and that's what I contributed to the house, which it is what it is. I mean, I would like to have seen some of it back, but so I ended up moving out on my own in Florida, in an apartment. It was a couple minutes away from my parents' condo, because I needed to be close by then. Being a single mom. Again, Zach was still up here. The whole time he was up here, he was still getting high. He ended up getting in trouble at one point and had to do a mandated 30-day program by the courts. But before that, he had came down to visit us around Christmas time. My dad and I went to, they live in St. Pete, so we went to Tampa, Florida to pick him up at the airport. And he showed up completely
blasted
to the wind. Yeah.
You bring you anything?
Yeah. He got it on the plane. That's so I was sober at that point. It had been probably like 8 months or so.
Oh damn.
Yeah, he did bring it. Whenever he showed up, though, my dad and I were the ones that picked him up. My dad was like, he's not, absolutely not. It was like midnight though, so I'm like, what do you want us to do? I can't just leave him at the airport. So he did let him come home. I was immediately to put him to bed. I mean, which I understand because I have a younger sister. My son was there at that point, and I have a younger sister. She's 14 years younger than me. So he didn't want her seeing that. He didn't, she never saw me like that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, which I get that. So I was to immediately put him to get to bed. And then the next day, my dad called me out into the living room, and he was like, gotta go. You gotta change his flight. Like, he's not gonna stay. And I was like, well, I don't know what you want. I was looking. I was like, there's no flights that even leave for another 2 days. So he, bless my dad, he ended up getting us a hotel room. That was, again, a couple minutes away from the condo. Because I didn't have a car at the time either. I was using my parents' car. So we were able to walk to the hotel, and Zach came down with, I think, it was like $60. So we had to walk to and from, up and down, it was like a couple miles to a fast food restaurant to get food, or call for pizza and stretch that $60 out for the couple days. After he was sober for a couple days, though, my dad did come around, and he was like, okay, the last night you guys can stay here. But yeah, that first night he was completely out. He did, like I said, he did bring me something though. So he's out on the mattress, and I'm like going through pockets. I knew it was there, you know. Yeah. And he had taped it to underneath his,
Taped it there?
Yeah, he had taped it there.
Buddy.
So I don't know how he got it through to us. That was the dumbest thing he could have done. But yeah, so I found it. So I did that. It was a good night. I'd been sober for 8 months.
I felt real good.
Yeah. And that's my favorite too. Like when everybody's in bed.
Yeah, you're by yourself.
Yep.
No responsibility.
Yeah, that's the best. But then I had went through his phone, and I had found out he wasn't. We were still together. That's what we told each other too.
Yeah.
But while he was still in Ohio and I was in Florida, he was talking to a girl. and getting things from her. I can see why he did it. He was robbing her. He was charging her, middlemaning whatever for her and charging her double. And he needed a way to, support his habit then too. But it was just like really, that was a gut punch. But so often he ended up, why he got in trouble too while he was he went back to Ohio, and then that's when he got in trouble. He was driving her car, and I think it was like a cable truck or something rear-ended him, and totaled her car. And when the cops came, they knew that he was, messed up, and so he got in trouble then, and that's when he was mandated to the 30-day rehab. So it was a couple months before he ended up going into the rehab, and he went crazy. He had started doing meth at that point too, just doing whatever he can get his hands on, really. So he would call me in the middle of the night, and he'd be like, someone's in the basement, just like tripping, man. So there was one point where I had to call a welfare check on him. They showed up to his parents' house, and they were like, dude, you gotta go. Like, you're just prolonging this. You gotta go do your rehab. And he'd be like, yeah, I'm going, just not today. And so I had to call for a couple welfare checks. And then he was completely hallucinating the one welfare check. He ran into the woods. He had Jackson police chasing him through the woods, but he didn't want to get caught with meth or dope or anything on him. So he hid it somewhere in the woods. He's just running through the woods. The police finally gave up. And then he went back home. The next day went back and got what he hid. So he was just off the wall.
So are you back on the dope as soon as he leaves?
No, that was just like a one-time thing.
Okay.
Because I honestly wasn't trying to find anything in Florida. I really did want to focus on, my son and trying to get sober at that point. I was just tired of everything. So I was working consistently, just trying to consume myself with work and everything. It wasn't until he did his 30-day program. As soon as he was out of his 30-day program, his parents were like, you're not living here. We're not dealing with that again. So he moved down with me, because at that point I had gotten my own apartment. I was living by myself, just my son and I. So he moved down to Florida then. And he brought perks down that time. So that's, again, picked up right where we left off. I had a little stint of sobriety. He had his 30 days of sobriety in his treatment center. Mm-hmm. He started with perks, and then it was like, okay, we got to find somebody. So this is actually funny. We were driving around one day, like trying to pinpoint, okay, who looks like a dealer? Who looks like a dealer? Like the second day that he was down in Florida. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to do this. I have my own place. Everything's going good. And I was like, I'm not going to sit here and waste hours looking for somebody. And I was like, I have $50, because he wasn't working at that time. It was just me that was working. So I was like, I have $50. I'll give you 10 minutes.
Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
He did. Of course he did. He asked one person. He waited to find who he was gonna, and it's so bad. He sat in the car and he was like, it's him. He walked up to, and the guy had it.
Damn.
So immediately, that's
Dude had it on him.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, he had it on him. He
Wow.
picked out the right guy. So yeah, we're right back to the races. We're no longer doing the pills at that point. It's just strictly powder.
Straight heroin.
Yeah. And in Florida too was kind of where we picked up with crack. So we like to speedball. And again,
That's the best.
Yeah. We started with just a weekend thing. Quickly progressed to every day. He was working at a pawn shop, so the type of people in and out of there too. He got a job at a pawn shop, should I say. He was able to find a lot of people in Florida.
I bet.
Yeah. Florida's expensive, though. Even with us both working full-time, bringing in, $5,000 a month. Our rent was like $1,500. My car insurance was like $300.
Yeah.
So just paying our bills, we were left with minimal as is.
Yeah.
So, eventually your bills aren't a priority.
Right.
It's like whatever. So the first thing I let go I wanted to keep a roof over my son's head. So the first thing I let go was my car insurance. Well, I didn't know in the state of Florida that if you lapse on your car insurance, in Ohio, they don't report it. You know, you can go however long. Well, I don't know if they do now, but they didn't. But in Florida, if you don't have car insurance, your insurance companies have to report it to the state. So I had lapsed on my insurance. I hadn't paid it for like 3 months, 4 months. My registration was also expired. Driving down the road one day, I pulled over. Like, okay, you know, I have a license. No, I didn't. I didn't have insurance, so they suspended my license.
Nice.
Damn, Florida.
Yeah. Also in Florida, they revoke your tag.
Damn.
So if you don't have insurance, they had a
You're driving completely illegally.
yeah. So they had an order to take my tag off my car. So I don't have plates now. It's like, what the fuck are we gonna do? I told my mom, I don't even remember what I told her at that point, but I was like, I need a ride to work. My work was like 30 minutes away from the house, our apartment. So she helped me with a ride to work. But he worked like a mile or so away, so he not driving. He rode his bike or got a ride for my mom anyway to work. But it's like, okay, how do we make money? Like, we don't have a way to get around anymore. We don't have a way to get anything anymore. We had a car. We just couldn't drive. I wasn't going to take the chance of getting pulled over and then going to jail in Florida because I was driving on a suspended license.
Right.
Or. So we did something stupid. We lived in a big apartment complex. We'd wait until like 10, 11 o'clock, midnight. We would take a license plate, put it on the car, run a couple miles down the road. It was a couple miles highway, so it wasn't enough for us to walk. Drive home, put the license plate back.
Okay.
Just so we had something on the car.
Yeah.
And that continued for a little bit. And then it's like, okay, we let this bill go. Pawn shop is no more. We have no TV. We have nothing. It's an apartment, an empty apartment.
Jeez.
So I'm talking to my mom and I was like, I want to go home. I don't like it here anymore. It's because of the life I created, you know?
Yeah, right. Of course you don't like it anymore.
I was like, and like I said, his parents enable us to, I was like, I want to go back with them. So we end up, I get in a huge fight with my mom. And Zach leaves one day and he's just walking down the road. And I call my mom and I was like, is he over there? Like, I can't find him. And my dad was like, oh, he's coming over here to, I don't know what got my dad's head. But so they ended up calling the cops because we couldn't find Zach. He was just walking. He was down by the water and he was just like, I need a second to myself, whatever. But they called the cops and my dad was like, they're on drugs. And so the cops were mandated reporters. That was our second case with CBS.
Oh.
So they came the very next day.
God, they don't miss a beat.
No, they in Florida they do urine tests. In Ohio they do the swabs, the mouth swabs. In Florida they do the urine test. So they gave us a urine test. We both do fail for crack and opiates. So they didn't really give us like, I don't even remember what it was. They didn't take our son then, but they were going to. My mom, my son was with my mom at the time, and so he wasn't at the house when they came. So he was supposed to stay there and all that nonsense. Well, we had been in communication with his parents back and forth, and they came and got us. They didn't know that we were doing. We kept our parents apart, so they didn't, tell us to each other. So they didn't know that we were doing what we were doing. They didn't know about the CPS case. They just rented a U-Haul trailer, hooked it on to the back of his mom's truck, and they drove down. We packed everything up. I'm like, well, fuck, how am I gonna get the car home? I don't have a license plate. So we find one. I had a Chevy Cruze, so another Chevy Cruze is what we took. Drove from Florida back to Ohio with a stolen license plate. Why I thought that was a good idea, I don't know. We made it.
That's crazy that you made it.
Yeah. We stopped overnight, slept at a hotel, and drove the rest of the way. So it took us 2 days. Now we're back in Ohio. We didn't get sober. We had already had people up here. So literally the moment we pull back into Canton, we're on the phone. We had like $60 or so. So we picked up, and now we're back with his parents. I'm driving around off can with a stolen license plate. I already know how to, finagle my ways to make money in Canton. So I go to donate plasma. I'm in the plasma center one day, and I can just hear people like, there's a stolen car. There's a stolen car. There's a stolen car. It wasn't a stolen car. It was a stolen license plate.
Yeah.
But they didn't know if the car was stolen too, because whenever they revoke your plate and you're in Florida, they revoke your registration too. So they couldn't see who the car was registered to because I hadn't swapped anything over. So they didn't know if the car was stolen. They just seen the plate. So they towed my car. There was a police hold on it. I did have the title. I had paperwork to prove that the car was mine. But then they were like, well, how did you get the license plate? And I was like, made up a story. I had bought the car from a buy here, pay here place anyway, in Florida. So I told them, I was like, that's the plate that they gave me. Like, I registered it through them. Like, I didn't have to go to the DMV. Like, they told me if I paid them extra, they would register everything and da-da-da-da. And, I mean, the detective knew I was bullshitting. But I'd never been in trouble before. Like, I think I had one speeding ticket at that point. So he was like, it just didn't make sense, which it didn't. So he was like, well, give me the information to the buy here, pay here. So I did. Well, luckily for me, they had went out of business. So he couldn't get in contact with them because they would have had, the information of the plate that they gave me originally. So he was like, well, something just didn't feel right with him. I started ducking and dodging the calls of the detective. So they did, I did have a warrant then put out for receiving stolen property because they couldn't prove that I had taken the license plate. But I was in possession of it, you know,
Right.
and the person whose license plate what it was, I think they got pulled over or something happened. They reported it stolen. So that was the first time I had ever been in trouble. They show up one night and they arrest me at Zach's parents' house. I was compliant. I just asked the cop, I was just please don't put cuffs on me in front of my son. So she didn't. She took me to the other side of the car, put the cuffs on me, and then it was just a book and release. I went down.
That's nice.
It is a felony because it's I don't want to say it's like an identity thing. A license plate is, it's a felony. So I got charged with felony receiving stolen property because I'd never been in trouble before. They did give me an OR bond. I was in for 6 hours. Didn't even change out of my clothes.
That's crazy.
I didn't stop. It was still, it didn't stop. So we were still continuing to do everything. His parents helped us to then get everything switched over in my name, legal now. Although you can register a car if your license is suspended, I still didn't have a valid license.
Yeah.
It was suspended in Florida, but Ohio didn't see that when I went to register for some reason. So I was able to get the registration, the plates that I needed, but couldn't switch my license over to Ohio.
Yeah.
So his parents didn't know that my license was suspended. So I'm still driving, have no insurance still, driving, nonstop. We're still, getting powder from people to people to people. We end up, meeting our last dealer, where it was no longer fentanyl, it was no longer heroin, it was the Xylazine.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so, and I don't know if you've heard anything about the withdrawal from Xylazine. That is ridiculous. So, with Xylazine and the medetomidine that's out right now, it's not like a not out kind of thing, because that's what we would like to do. We'd like to, get our shit, and then it kind of gave us like a pep. Like, so we're going to figure out how to get more money. Well, with Xylazine, it is, you're out for hours. It's a trank. So you do it, and you just fall asleep.
Is that the one Narcan doesn't reverse?
Yeah, it doesn't reverse. It's, Narcan resistant. We didn't know it was Xylazine at the time. It was just like, well, why are we just constantly falling asleep? We just thought it was good dope.
Yeah.
So we're doing that. And then I'm on my way to work one day, and I make it to the top of the hill that our street's on. And I stopped at the stop sign. I was doing something, and I fell asleep. I adjusted a line right before I left to go to work. I fell asleep. And the neighbors at the top of the hill end up calling the cops because I'm there for like 10, 15 minutes with my foot on the brake, just passed out in the car. They thought I had like some kind of medical emergency. So they called the police, the ambulance. I had shit on me too. I don't know why I didn't get searched. I told them, I was like, I've been feeling dizzy. Da, da, da. I mean, I don't want to say like I don't look like an addict, but like I don't, at that point I didn't give off I do drugs. And that's not a really common, it's a common thing in Canton, but in Jackson where I is, it's like nobody does that there. So I told them, I was like, I had a medical emergency. They were like, well, did you OD? You didn't Narcan me. I'm awake. I didn't OD. So they took me to the hospital. They knew what it was, but I don't know if they just couldn't search me because of that. I don't know they didn't search the car. They didn't search me. So they took me to the hospital. I AMA out of the hospital quick. The ambulance took me. I knew the cops were coming right after. They had already been on scene, so I don't know what took them so long to get to the hospital, but I was like, I'm out. The ER that they took me to is really close to the house, so I just left. I walked. They had let my father-in-law drive my car back down the hill to the house, and yeah, I left. And then went home, just, get the ass end of it. But they, like I said, they enable us, so we're not kicked out, we're not anything. But they know what we're doing now. It's you can't hide it. So then we're, getting our shit. A couple days go by, happens again, and that's when we're like, okay, something's not right with this stuff. But we were driving to middleman a bag to somebody else. And Zach was actually the one driving at that point because I had worked night shift. So I had just gotten off at like 4 a.m. and it was probably right after we got our son on the bus. So it was like 8 a.m. or so. So I was like, you're driving. I can't drive right now. Yeah. So again, he doesn't have a license. So it was just a couple blocks away from where we live. We go there, sell the bag, come home, or on the way home, he falls asleep at a stop sign. So, again, the cops get called. We wake up because somebody is laying on their horn behind us, but they had already called the cops. So I'm like, the cops are coming. Like, we've got to switch because you don't have a license. Oh, okay. Well, they had pulled up right as we switched. I was like, if we get pulled over, they know our license plate. They're going to see us. They're going to pull us over. So we need to switch. Because if he would have gotten in trouble with no license, I could play I didn't know my license was suspended, play that card. But if he would have gotten in trouble, he would have went to jail again. So we switched seats, and then they pull up right as we switch seats. I'm like, she's lying. I was driving, play that shit. So, again, they didn't search us. I don't know, they just said that we couldn't drive home. So we pulled, there's a little like bike path, right there, a little parking lot, right where we fell asleep again. So we called one of our friends that we were middlemaning to at the point too. And we were like, you got to come get the car. We just, fell asleep. So he had a license. He came and got the car, drove us to right up the road to our house. And then I got in the car, or we took him back somehow. I think we just kind of waited it out. And then I took him back to, his car that was at the little parking lot there. So yeah, we fell asleep a couple times in the car. And then we're continuing to do things, or do it off and on. Not off and on, I don't know. We're continuing to do it. And then one day we had taken our son to a Christmas parade. It was like a month or so had went by. And I'm driving, and I'm not, honest to God, I wasn't high or anything. My son was in the back seat, and he was bouncing up and down, and he didn't have a seatbelt on. So I turned around, and I was like, put your seatbelt on. I rear-ended somebody. Totaled my car, right in front of his grandma's house, too, right in front of Zach's grandma's house.
Oh, boy.
So the cops come, and turns out I had a warrant out for a theft that had happened at Walmart. I didn't, get stopped at Walmart or anything. They just seen the license plate. I don't know what happened. But I had switched some tags on some pants for my son because I was still trying to, be a mom. I was trying to get school clothes. And I had switched some tags. They put a warrant out, and I had a warrant for theft. So I had to go to jail that night. I was in, and I'm like talking to Zach right before I get around. I was like, please just let me go inside your grandma's and do a line. Like, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be sick. But no, I didn't. That was another withdrawal. So I went to jail. That was my first time in jail. Didn't have an OR bond or anything for that one, which was weird because that was only a misdemeanor.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in jail for 5 days. And the first night was hell. You know, I hadn't done anything, and with the Xylazine too, at that point, it only lasts like
it doesn't last that long.
It's even quicker than fentanyl.
Oh yeah.
So it's like 2, 3, maybe 6 hours, and you're sick, like sick. So the first night was really rough, and then I had met some people in jail that were actually going to the same dealer that we were going to, so they knew who we were going to, and she was like, that stuff has benzos in it. You need to tell the jail that because our jail does MAP programs. They have like addiction. It's really bad in Canton. So I told the jail, I was like, hey, I just found out that the dope that I'm doing has benzos in it, and with a benzo withdrawal, you can have a seizure.
You can die.
So they ended up putting me on a Klonopin taper in jail. So the first night was rough, but after that it was fine. And benzos, like they knocked me out. Like, so I was asleep the whole time in jail.
How was the end of the taper? Pretty easy?
Well, it's like a month-long taper that they do there.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so being 5 days, I was on 2 milligrams of Klonopin twice a day. So
you're doing all right.
Yeah, I'm fine. You know, completely fine. So I didn't even go to court. They didn't come get me for court or anything. They just told me to pack up my stuff one day. So one morning I was like, okay, whatever. So I call Zach. We had just picked up a ball too right before I went in. I knew it was gone.
That's how it always goes.
But yeah, so him and his brother came to pick me up. And we immediately went to, go pick up. I was like, I'm so excited. I'm so ready to do this. But yeah, so went to jail, totaled my car. So now life's rough.
Yeah.
How
do you get clean? Like, when's the clean time come?
We're right there.
Okay.
With no car, no way. We live in Jackson, which is 30 minutes from Canton.
Fucked.
I'm fucked.
Yeah.
So we're stealing his parents' car in the middle of the night. We have no way to make money. So this is kind of like we started doing some shady things. Ended up, we stole from his parents. We would take because they're like computer illiterate. We'd take their cards, we'd add them to Cash App. We would add, which I feel so fucking bad for. I hate myself for doing, but with the Xylazine withdrawal, it's you do it, you're sick, and it's like the worst sickness. It's even, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. You're throwing up. You have this like jolt in your brain where you feel like you're being like electrocuted almost. You're like, it's weird. Yeah. But it's constant. Like there's no relief whatsoever. We had tried getting on methadone, and it wasn't working. So we ended up, I think altogether we stole almost $10,000 from his parents.
Wow.
Yeah. They caught us, and then we got another card. They caught us. We got another card. And this time, too, we're calling anybody and everybody to get rides. We're pawning his dad's guitars. We're doing anything. We just didn't care anymore. Anything to not be sick. So they got fed up with it. They ended up calling the cops on us. And we were gonna get evicted because I was like, you can't make us leave. We both were. You can't make it. We've been here for how long?
Right.
So we were gonna get evicted from his parents' house. She had the papers and everything. And it just got to the point where it's like we can't do anything. They've locked all their cards. They've taken their keys. We're fucked.
Yeah.
So we're laying there one night just in hell. I tried to get in the bath to just calm myself. I don't know if it was like the fluctuation with my body temperature or because the Xylazine did have benzos in it as well. Because when I went to jail, they gave me a drug test. It was like a 12-panel screen. I popped for 10 of the 12. It had like meth, coke, PCP, everything. The dope that we were getting.
Everything in it.
So I had gotten the bath to just kind of calm my body. Was in there for like 3 minutes, 5 minutes maybe, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. The hot water. I stood up, walked out of the bath, and immediately hit the floor. I went unresponsive. I had a seizure. They called 911. I went to the hospital. My blood pressure was like cardiac arrest levels, they said. My potassium was low. Like my body was just all out of whack. So they admitted me. Which is weird because in Canton, like you can go to the ER, you can try, if you're withdrawing, they can't do anything for you.
If you're in benzo withdrawal, they have to.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. So that happened to me. I was in the hospital for 7 days.
Damn.
While I'm in the hospital, though, Zach's still going through it. His parents end up sending him to detox. So he did go to the Stark County, detox. He's in there going through it. They have our son. I'm in the hospital though, and they were asking me all types of questions, whatever. I'm thinking, honestly, honesty is the best policy. I need help. I'm trying to get help. Well, they're mandated reporters. They knew I had a son. They call CPS. With how bad I was and what was happening inside the hospital, they related to CPS. CPS did come. We were put, I was discharged from the hospital 7 days later. The whole time I was in the hospital, they had me, I don't want to say like a coma, but they had me sedated. So thankfully I didn't have to go through that because the Xylazine withdrawal is, I understand why Kensington is the way it is. It's crazy. Nothing like I've ever felt before in my life. With any other, withdrawal that I've been through. But CPS did come out. We are on a protection or like I don't remember what they called it, but a program where we're not allowed to be alone with our son. We're supposed to be color-coded. They send us out randomly a couple times a week. We have no car. Nobody's going to drive us to Canton. And unbeknownst to me, Zach's still, not sharing at that point because everything was down the middle between us. We joke now, down the middle, but yeah, he was doing his own thing. So he was still testing for CPS, and he was like basically a big fuck you to the CPS. He didn't want anything to do with them. We're under the impression like, yeah, we're still good parents, but we love our son. You can love your son all you want, but we were not good parents at that point. We were completely messing everything up. But so it got to the point where we were not allowed to stay in the house anymore because he was testing positive still. So we had moved into the neighborhood kind of flop. We were there. Zach ends up getting in trouble again, 3 felonies. He gets caught with dope while we're living there. We did lose custody of our son. We didn't lose custody. They were threatening us with that. So before that happened, I just signed him over. I didn't want that, on my record or anything like that. I knew he was better off with Zach's parents at that point too. So we signed him over. We're living in the neighborhood flop, which is the next city over, but it's an older gentleman that just has people coming and going. He let us move in there. We had kind of middleman bags before to him, so he knew us. We knew him. We stayed there. Zach leaves one day. He gets in trouble. He gets caught with crack, heroin. They gave him 2 separate charges for the Xylazine. They gave him fentanyl related compound and heroin because it had both in them, but it was the same thing. So that ends up happening twice, actually. He gets caught on 2 separate occasions. So he's in jail for like 2 months while I'm trying to, go back and forth between my son, trying to, I'm sober at that point, which it was hard to be sober in a house where it's like everybody's doing it, Mm-hmm. But then I found out I'm pregnant again. Which this one was not planned. Obviously, it was the worst time to possibly have a baby, but my daughter, she's kind of what saved us. I don't want to put it on her because we did the work too. we were in an outpatient program too at the time when I had my seizure. We were on methadone. We still are on methadone. But yeah, I found out I was pregnant, and everybody was like, you need to have an abortion. I wasn't having another abortion. It wasn't happening. So we had her, and up until we had her, Zach was kind of off and on, the bandwagon. He had stints of sobriety, but then it was like, okay, he's out smoking crack and doing whatever. That he turned kind of more to that. He didn't want to go through the sickness again with the Xylazine, so that's what he was doing. And I had my daughter. Right before I had my daughter, though, we were doing good. We were showing his parents, this is our test he's on ISP too, so this is our test at probation. These are our drug tests at the outpatient program, the methadone clinic, because I was just trying to get my son back. That was kind of like because I was prideful in the fact that like, oh yeah, I can do drugs, but I've never lost custody of my son,
right.
Yeah. So, but it came, as it does with everybody, it comes. So I had my daughter, that opened another CPS case because we had just had a recent one. But I had been sober my whole pregnancy. Like it just wasn't, I wasn't touching it. That's one thing, never. I will not put she doesn't have a choice, I'm not going to feed her something like that.
Sure.
So that was hard, being in a house, being pregnant, where it's like constantly around you, everybody's doing it. But again, at that point, I was like, I can't go through that. The sickness from the Xylazine was kind of what did it for me too. So the CPS, they cornered me in the hospital, actually. They waited till everybody left. Zach had went home. 2 showed up, and they were like, yeah, you're on another supervision program. You're not allowed to leave the hospital with your daughter. Like, what the fuck do you mean? I've been sober for over a year at that point. It had been like just a year. And we ended up having to get like somebody to sit with us, basically, while his parents were at work. We weren't allowed to be alone with her whatsoever. So we had to have his grandma come over during the day to sit with us while his parents were at work. We weren't allowed to leave the house without his parents, and it was just, I understand, but more hoops to jump through when I had been sober for over a year at that point. But thankfully they came out. I think it was like 4 or 5 drug tests that I had to pass. Zach was passing them as well at that point. But since he had recently, within the year, had those 3 felonies happen, and when I was sober and we were out of the house, he was more recent. He was a liability, I guess. So they took me off of the supervision program, but then I still had to supervise him with our daughter. So he wasn't allowed to be alone with our daughter. A couple more weeks of that, the case was closed. So since then, we've been sober. Thank God. And we're just, working on repairing everything that we've done. We are back in his parents' house. We haven't moved out.
How long does that give you total sobriety?
It was in March of 2025 that I had my seizure.
Okay.
So almost 2
over
years
2
now.
years.
Yeah. So our daughter, kind of what did it for Zach. He's like, I just don't want to put her through what we put our son through. Now we're working on getting custody of our son back. We're actually doing that. We're waiting for a couple more paychecks, and because we have to pay like $1,000 to have an attorney, file the fees. But we're working on getting custody back. We just bought a brand new car, just repairing everything.
Takes time.
Yeah. Things are great with my parents now. Things are great with his parents now. They're still kind of, we fucked them over a lot.
Yeah, they're justified.
Fucked them over a lot.
Yeah, a lot. But I'm so thankful for them. I don't know where we'd be without them now. But they've always been, behind us. We just want you to get your shit together. We've kind of made our parents come together now too. Whereas before we were keeping apart. Like, we don't want them to talk to each other.
Right.
But now, we're all just kind of repairing as a family.
Good.
Getting everything together now.
Congrats.
Thanks.
And thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Keep up the good fight, man.
I'm rambling.
No, you were perfect the whole time. Thank you so much.
Yeah.